Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the June 7th Town Council agenda. Christie, are we in compliance with the Freedom of Information Act?
Yes, sir, we are.
Thank you very much. Could you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The invocation today will be given by Reverend Alston from the Queen's Chapel Church. Always good to see you, sir.
Same here, Mayor. Let us bow our heads for prayer. Dear wise and loving God, I thank you on behalf of all who are gathered this afternoon. Thank you for your many blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health we need to fulfill our callings, for provision and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thanks as well for the freedom to embrace you or the freedom to reject you. Thank you for loving us even so from your boundless and gracious nature. Grant that our mayor, the various levels of town officials, and in particular for this assembled council, have ears to listen to the people they serve and wisdom to act for justice. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and challenging issues of our times. This we ask in your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend. Christie, could you make the roll call?
Yes, sir.
Indicating that Mr. Lennox is excused.
Yes, sir. Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Harkins?
Here.
Mr. Ames?
Here.
Mrs. Becker? Here. Mr. Lennox is absent today and excused. Mr. Stanford?
Here.
Mayor McCann?
Here.
Present, all present, sir.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the workshop of May 10th.
Move for approval. Second.
Any questions or changes to them? All in favor, please raise the right hand. Thank you. And also approval of the public hearing for the town municipal budget for June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Any questions on that? All in favor, raise the right hand. Thank you very much. Report of the town manager.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, members of the community. Under the report of the town manager, I have a couple items, but first and foremost, Senator Tom Davis. Hey, Tom. Come on up, sir. Senator Davis has asked to appear before council to provide an update on some various items that I know he's been working on closely, one of which, William Hilton Parkway, closely with us, but then perhaps some other things in Columbia. So first and foremost, very thankful and grateful to you for all your help that you provide to us, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. Really just wanted to update you on what we accomplished and didn't accomplish during the 2022 legislative session, to talk about some matters that I know that you're interested in terms of appropriations, to talk about some legislation that was enacted in regard to open space and green space, and then to sort of recount my understanding of where I think we are in regard to the 278 corridor, and then to answer any questions that you all might have. So it's basically an informational purpose. You know, in terms of the budget, we go back up next Wednesday to pass a reconciled budget. I suspect there will be substantial increases for K through 12 funding for all of Beaufort County. I-95 has now been fully funded to 3 lanes in each direction and repaving from the Georgia-South Carolina line all the way to Walterboro. We're now in the process of trying to accelerate that schedule. They've already acquired the rights of ways. They've done the environmental mitigation. And so now it's a matter of moving it up in the queue in terms of when they start construction. So I know that's been something we've been working on for quite some time. We're still in the running for some funding for the Hilton Head Airport. There was an additional $1.3 billion recognized by the Board of Economic Advisors just 3 weeks ago that wasn't even appropriated by the General Assembly, just another $1.3 billion that they found in the cushion. So I think there's an excellent chance that we can increase the state funding for that new terminal. I know that there's been a package put together whereby the county has committed some money, the FAA has committed some money, so I think there's a substantial likelihood that we get that fully funded in the near future. We also managed to secure a $1.4 million appropriation for Mitchellville to complete and to follow through on the master plan that I know you guys have shown a lot of leadership in regard to, and I'm really excited about that. There is something that you guys also have taken the initiative on called the Economic Development Corporation for the Old Stoney neighborhood. And there is an appropriation request in play right now in Senate Finance. That has not yet been incorporated into the budget, but I'm very optimistic, especially since another $1.3 billion in one-time money was recently certified by the BEA. I'm confident that we can get some money, some seed money, to put in that EDC. I think that Beaufort County has committed to putting some money into that EDC as well. So I think it's an excellent opportunity as you go about deciding upon what to do with the 278 corridor. Parallel to that will be this effort to try to bring some attention to the northern part of the island, which, as you all know, has historically borne more of the brunt of development on Hilton Head than other areas. And so that's going to be an excellent opportunity for the town to be proactive, and I commend you all for doing that. I think that was an excellent step. In regard to the 278 corridor process, I'm obviously not a principal in that particular deal. The principals are the town of Hilton Head, Beaufort County, and the South Carolina Department of Transportation. But over the last couple of years, I've been involved in facilitating some of the discussions, and I thought I would share with council where I think things stand right now, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions you all might have. There seem to be three parallel initiatives that are taking place between the town and the county. And they're separate in some respects in that they deal with separate things, but they're also concurrent in that they are all interrelated in regard to what I think is the overall objective. The first agreement that I think is being discussed between the county and the town is in regard to how the two entities can go about accomplishing two things. One is trying as best we can to implement and fund the recommendations or the alterations to the bridge that this town has recommended to the SCDOT. I believe you submitted it, Mark, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and I think there were 26 specific recommendations. The task there is to get the DOT to agree to incorporate them into the overall design. The second part is to find the funding to pay for those additional changes and improvements. And so that particular agreement between the town and the county would spell out how the two entities would work together toward that end. The second thing that first agreement or memorandum of understanding between the county and the town would be to address a simulation of traffic patterns from the Moss Creek lights to the Cross Island intersection and inclusive of Gumtree. The idea being that we could have a simulated analysis done of what traffic movements would be if the DOT's preferred alternative were implemented, and then to compare that simulated data against simulations done in regard to some alternatives, so that town council would have a better idea when it's called upon by the DOT and Beaufort County to consider any foot dragging. Quite to the contrary, I think there's a lot of respect that has been garnered for the town of Hilton Head for the diligence that you guys have paid on this project. So I wanted to point those aspects of the state about this process. The second parallel but separate memorandum of agreement that I anticipate, and this is again a result of discussions that I think Mark has had with Eric Greenway. It's not me coming up with whole cloth. It's something that your excellent town managers have gone together and put together. But the second piece of that would be looking at the traffic optimizational studies that both Beaufort County and the town of Hilton Head have built into their budgets, and making sure that those two studies were compatible. And by that I mean they're using the same criteria, the same analytics, and making sure that they make sense in combination. and then coordinating the two so that you have a comprehensive traffic study done for all of Hilton Head, and then extending out onto the mainland to the Buckwalter Parkway. The idea being that having that information in regard to how you optimize that signalization could also have an impact on the decisions you make about the 278 corridor. I mean, it gives you, again, the position or the purpose being to put you in a position to make the best decision possible for the people of Hilton Head. And it's my understanding that that agreement is also being drafted. The third would be in regard to what I mentioned just a moment ago. Formalizing the agreement between the town of Hilton Head Island and Beaufort County for the Economic Development Corporation for Stoney. I think it's important to memorialize that, one, because it then gives an understanding or an expectation of what monies Beaufort County will give as seed money. But secondly, and equally important, it puts me in a position, and also other members of the Beaufort County Legislative Delegation in a position to secure appropriations from the General Assembly. It gives us a vehicle we can point to and say, this is the way by which the town of Hilton Head Island is going to mitigate some of the impacts to Stoney, and that's a very compelling argument up there in Columbia. And so this brings focus to that particular compelling argument and gives us an ability, not just this year, but in subsequent years, to go ahead and provide some source of funding for that EDC. So I wanted to have this opportunity to share that with you. One last thing is in regard to a green space bill that I authored and got passed. And what it does, and Governor McMaster signed it into law a couple weeks ago, it allows Beaufort County to submit to the voters for approval a 1 penny sales tax for the purpose of generating a revenue stream that will then pay for the acquisition of open space, development rights, densities, and things of that nature. What I anticipate in the way the bill was drafted was that if that is approved by the voters, subject to a referendum, that income stream could then be leveraged by the counties. They could issue bonds, for instance, $400 million, $500 million worth of bonds. Those bonds would be amortized over a period of time, depending upon what it took to amortize that debt. The idea then being that we could leverage the resources we have with Beaufort County's Rural and Critical Lands Committee. They're already established. They already have a good track record. And to really be aggressive in regard to buying up densities and trying to buy up open space in southern Beaufort County. I'm very concerned about what is happening, particularly in the southern part of Beaufort County and in Jasper County as well. If every unit is built that's already been authorized, already been approved, already in a development agreement, you're going to be doubling the number of rooftops that are currently in southern Jasper County and southern Beaufort County. We simply can't sustain that. Our waterways can't sustain that. Our roadways can't sustain that. We will be fast on the way to becoming Mount Pleasant. Now, I understand that this is a horrible time to be talking about a penny sales tax for two reasons. One, inflation. People are paying $4 and some odd cents a gallon at the pump for gasoline. It's a very unfortunate or untimely, time to really ask for a penny sales tax for that purpose. But then again, I would argue there's a sense of urgency here. In another 3 to 5 years, the horse is out of the barn and it's done. So I think it's a conversation we should at least have. And I wanted to make you guys aware that that tool is now available, and I want that to enter into this conversation. The second reason why it's problematic is I know that Beaufort County at this point is contemplating a penny sales tax in November to pay for road projects on a countywide basis. And I'm not denigrating the work that the county has done at all in that regard, and I'm not necessarily standing here to make an argument against that, but I don't think the problem that I just articulated is something we can pave our way out of. And really, I think it's a very exigent circumstance here. And so I'm going to address County Council at their meeting next week in this regard. It's my understanding there's 2 more readings that they have to give to this penny sales tax for road projects. I want to introduce this as either an alternative or something that can be done complementary to what they do this November for the penny sales tax for the roads. I really think that if we wait another election cycle in 2 more years, it's going to be too late. So with that by way of explanation, that's why I requested a chance to talk to you guys, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Glenn?
Thank you. First of all, Tom, you say you're not a party having to do with the corridor project. I respectfully disagree. You are a very valuable neutral arbiter between us and the county, helping to facilitate these things. And without your assistance, I don't know where we would be now. So I am very, very grateful to you for that. I think the concepts of these MOUs, which you have recommended to both us and to the county, make a whole lot of sense, and I'm going to push to get those things adopted as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Glenn. I guess the reason I say that is I want to be respectful of my lane. I recognize that the town and the county are the ones that are interfacing with DOT, and ultimately you guys are going to be the ones to make the decision. So I wanted to be respectful of that. But I have appreciated the opportunity that y'all have given me to kind of be a facilitator and to try to bring, because there is some state aspects that bear upon this too. I mean, making the argument to Christy Hall that more funding ought to be provided, talking to John White at the SIB, don't get shaky on $120 million. We're holding things together here. But I just wanted to recognize my lane, Glenn. That's the only reason.
Thank you, sir.
Jamie?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Your lane has been incredibly important to the 278 corridor projects. The reasonableness and the sensitivity to the wishes of the island residents can't be understated, and I appreciate that, respect it, and I'm so grateful for it. Additionally, I just want to pick up on the idea of doing what we can to buy those development rights, to preserve that land. I think those of us on this council and staff who hear me almost every day, and I'm sorry for that, echo those same words here on the island. And so I think it's an incredibly important thing that, that you're talking about. So thank you. I'll turn it over to Stoney.
Senator, first, thanks for all you do. You're a tremendous resource to this community and this county. In terms of the EDC Stoney area, if we're successful, and I hope we are, to get those funds moving in that direction, will they be limited from a usage standpoint to Stoney, or could they be used also throughout the island where we may have opportunity to discover or to celebrate Gullah culture?
I think that would be a decision for a town council to make in regard to the EDC, how you define it, the scope of its mission, what area that you envision to be impacted by that EDC. I guess I refer to Stoney because I view that as the most immediate thing in need of protection because of 278. But there's no reason whatsoever, and I'm not advocating for a narrow Stoney-only focus to EDC. I think certainly it could be broadened out however town council wanted to form it. I mean, the way it would be set up, and David may know more about this than I do because he's had some experience with this, but it would be a 501c3 corporation, and then you would be the member of or the controlling shareholder in that 501c3. And you'd have the board of directors, and you'd have the ability in the Articles of Incorporation to define the area that you wanted impacted. And then based on how that's defined, that would then enable us then to make our various arguments to the General Assembly about why funding would be appropriate.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Senator,
Hey, David.
you have the ability to innately understand when there's something that is an opportunity and incredibly important to an area, to a community. And you brought up two examples of that today. One was the CDC. And when we initially talked about that, you almost instantaneously understood the opportunity that would provide this island in terms of mitigation for the Stoney area regarding the impacts of the roadway, the highway, but also longer term, the prosperity that could come from that kind of an organization. So I thank you on that. The second is the notion of a 1 cent sales tax to purchase development rights or land outright. I stand absolutely solidly with you on that. We are not going to be able to pave our way out of what is coming down the pike unless we do something about it. And thank you for your leadership in that, and I support it here at the town council.
And there are certain ways, David, that I think we could be creative and conservations can be given. I mean, last night I was at a planning commission meeting, and they were looking at the cooler tract, which is a large tract of land near Oldfield, and they were looking to triple their densities in regard to developing that tract, which would further congest an already very congested area, if you're familiar with where that new light is, the 462. But by the same token, the Cooler family stood up there and said, we've had this property in our family for 130 years. You've given adjacent property owners the right to develop at these densities. A matter of simple fairness, you ought to give that right to us. And and that's a fair point. And one of the things that occurred to me was that's an excellent example of how a rural and critical lands could come in and say, if you agree to downzone your density to say maybe 30 units for all that land, you can then take as a charitable contribution the market value diminution by agreeing not to develop at that higher density. There are creative ways we can go out of this problem that we can't address through zoning. The reason we can't address it through zoning is a lot of these development agreements have already been signed. These development rights are vested. And I know it's a terrible time to be talking about a 1-cent sales tax, and I may regret it, but I think it is time for us to kind of at least articulate the problem and let the people of Beaufort County decide what they want to do.
Alex?
Mr. Mayor, and I echo my colleagues, Senator, with you being a partner along the way. We are so gracious to have someone of your stature. I want to applaud you on a few things real quickly here. Your ability to understand and execute process, I think, is important, and we thank you for that. Also, you have this rare ability to be bold when needed, and we definitely thank you for that. That's important, okay? We argue back and forth about politics, but at the end of the day, we're all representatives. I think you do a very good job with that, so we thank you for that. I'm glad to hear that the Green Space Initiative has some flexibility within it, okay, with developmental rights. I think that's important, not to necessarily box ourselves in. So the creativity there is enormous. I appreciate that also. And to my colleagues that have asked the question about the CDC, and again, thank you for spearheading some funding from the state on that. I know Mr. Orlando has more to come on that. The point is, yes, to focus on Stoney, but not limit ourselves to just Stoney, because the historic neighborhoods around the town are also in need of assistance along the way. So again, we thank for your assistance in that. And we just want to make sure that you feel welcome standing in front of us, sharing and having a conversation with us at any time. Thank you.
Absolutely. And one thing I should mention too, in addition to with the CDC or EDC, however you want to ascribe to it, it also gives us an ability to petition the federal government in regard to grants. I mean, there's a tremendous story that we can tell here in Hilton Head. Mitchellville being one example of that, but there are other examples of that. And I think what's been lacking in the past is sort of a coherent way to tell that story on the one hand, and second of all, something you can point to policymakers and say, if you like that story and agree that it needs to be told, this is a way that you can facilitate and make that happen. So I think it serves a couple of different functions, and I really commend the leadership you guys have shown in passing that resolution to create that development corporation. That really was a game changer.
We'll see if you wish to do.
Well, I don't know what to say except ditto times 7. You know, of course, appreciate all of your leadership and especially your help communicating on our behalf, on the county's behalf with the state. I do know the project's better because of you and then some. So I'm excited to dig into this new South Carolina law, TDR capability versus just buying property is a game changer, I think, for the state.
And the other thing I would say is the way that legislation was drafted, it can be up to 1%. So you don't necessarily have to levy 1% Although I would argue that it's warranted if you wanted to blend it and have it be a half a penny or a quarter of a penny or whatever it was. And you could also have the ability, if it were lower, to extend the sales tax over a greater period of time, and you could still amortize the same amount of debt. So you've got some flexibility there. I just think it's important that the county, as it makes this important decision in regard to what to do in November, that they be aware of this tool as well.
Senator, you've always been here when we needed you. In fact, sometimes you show up before we think we need you, but I really appreciate all you do for us along the way. What can we do for you on the green space? How can we help that process along?
Well, I think I'll have a better idea, Mayor, after next Tuesday when I make the presentation to County Council and I get an idea of just how far downstream they are with what they already want to do. You know, and I think I copied you all with an email that I'd sent a couple weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. As soon as the law had been passed and signed by Governor McMaster, I sent it to them and I've been telling them all along that I was working to get this thing through. I just got it passed on the next to last day of session. And so in any event, I'll have a better idea after that meeting where the votes are in that regard. I'm going to make the argument that it's more appropriate to do an open space penny than a transportation penny. But failing that argument, I'd like to open up a discussion about maybe doing a blend where maybe you have a half a penny for, you know, prioritizing certain road projects and another half penny for the other, because they're really two sides of the same coin. So I'll have a better idea next Tuesday, Mr. Mayor. I'll be happy to report back to you.
We thank you for all you do for us, and thank you very much.
I appreciate the opportunity to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, our semi-annual report from our chairman, our fearless chairman of the Planning Commission, Mr. Mike Scanlon. Hello, sir, and thank you for being here. Thanks for all you do at Planning Commission.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Orlando. First of all, on behalf of the commissioners, I'd like to thank Teresa Haley for the work she's done for the Planning Commission over the last few years. I know she's moved on to bigger and better things, and also for the continuing and always excellent work of Ann Siren. I can tell you that all quiet on the planning front at this point. So quiet that recently we feel like lifeguards and sitting next to an empty pool, you know, not much to do. But we're not in over our heads. And I want to tell you that over the past several months, as you have in your packet, I'm sure, we accepted the report of Darren Shoemaker with regard to the traffic monitoring and evaluation studies. Also, with regard to the capital improvements program, fiscal year priority projects, the CIP committee voted 4-0 to move a list of priority projects forward. And that happens to be with regard to the Squire Pope Road, Green Shell Park to Ford Shell Ring Park, with a connection to the Rowing and Sailing Center at Squire Pope Community Park. And also add South Forest Beach pathway improvements and under pathways accessibility and safety enhancement projects, and to move Dillon Road at the William Hilton Parkway intersection to a top priority under roads. Also, the commission voted 8-0 to approve and recommend to town council the proposed fiscal year priority projects with the following changes: to move the Main Street Whipping Crane Way to Wilburn Road Pathway Project down the pathways to priorities list, and to move the Jonesville Road Pathway Project up to second place in that category. We also, even though it's been quiet, we have had some street name applications with regard to Mini Common, the Bailey's Point, 7 different streets there, and the Oysterman's Trace. If there are no further questions, that concludes my report to council.
Any questions from the chairman? Thank you very much, as always.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, sir. And last, Krista, is Mr. Clausen here from Beaufort County?
Yes, sir, he is.
There he is. Hello. Hello, sir. Beaufort County 1-cent sales tax presentation. Eric Clausen, our Beaufort County Director of Engineering. Welcome.
You want to do that after Tom Davis?
Yeah, good luck.
Well, Yeah, not only do I have to follow Senator Davis, but I'm the B squad for Beaufort County. I've been here a total of about 6 weeks.
Okay,
So bear with me. I've been a part, though, of not only sitting on some of the TAC committee meetings that Beaufort County held, but also a part of sales tax referendums for some of the past communities that I've been a part of as well. So again, I just want to begin by thanking you all for the partnership that you have with Beaufort County, especially as we move through the challenging project of US 278. And again, want to thank Senator Davis for his support through those projects as well. So we've taken on, and again, as Senator Davis had mentioned, it's somewhat of a challenging time just in society right now with gas prices and inflation and whatnot. But that doesn't change the fact that we're also, we're really at a critical path at a crossroads to moving forward on some of these transportation projects. So really can't talk about where we propose going until we talk about where we've been. So, oops, had a little bit of a delay. So a little bit of the history on the sales tax, the prior sales tax, and where this is really coming from. November last year, County Council got together and started discussion on the future of a new sales tax, seeing that the other one was just about at completing its total accumulation of tax dollars, which was $120 million. So that sales tax expired at 12/31 of 21, and that was actually a year earlier than anticipated on the collection of that tax. So further discussion occurred in January of 2022 to discuss what the future of the sales tax would potentially look like. So on February 7th, County Council passed a resolution establishing a citizen committee. So the county commissioned a 17-member committee. There was one member from each one of the 11 council districts, as well as one member from each of the 6 municipalities. So in Hilton Head, you've got District 8, which the representative was Charles Perry, District 10, Morris Campbell, District 11, Frank Toronto, and then your Town of Hilton Head representative was Pete Christian. So, and we want to thank them for their input and their expertise that they gave to the process, as well as the chair, Dean Moss. So again, they met pretty tirelessly, trying to work through just all the challenges of trying to meet not only the needs of Hilton Head, but again, the entire county. So the county council had tasked this transportation advisory committee with 3 tasks. Number 1, to come up with projects to place on a proposed sales tax. Number 2, define what that sales tax amount was going to be. And then 3, lastly, is come up with whatever that duration would potentially be. So the committee met, as I mentioned, it was on Tuesday nights in the evening for about 2.5 months, met at 11 different occasions. Again, thank you to that committee for everything that they've done to work through this. So the initial discussion involved just some transportation planning discussion. Where have we been? What are some of the prior plans that we've used? We're not here to recreate the wheel. We're here to build upon some of those plans that are already in place, namely the comprehensive plan, the LATS long-range transportation plan, the impact fee projects, and the bicycle pedestrian master plan. And then the other thing that the TAC committee looked at was just the duration of the tax. So what they, again, not recreating the wheel, they went back and they looked at other counties throughout the state and found that the program lengths range anywhere from 4 to 25 years. So basically, after we met 11 different occasions, the final recommendation from the Transportation Advisory Committee was a 10-year sales tax that is proposed to bring in $700 million. So different from the sales tax that was done in 2018, there's really 2 different parts to the sales tax. Part of it is define specific projects. Part of it is, half of it goes towards program projects. And again, I think the other key piece to keep in mind here is just because this is $700 million, that doesn't include the totality of what this tax could mean, as it could be leveraged with federal funds, state funds, that sort of thing. So while there's a pretty extensive list here, and not all of these are necessarily important to the town of Hilton Head, I do want to run through them just real quick, just so that you understand the comprehensive nature that the TAC committee used as they went through every one of these projects, and just so that you appreciate the time and effort that went into developing what these ultimate projects were. So specific projects for about $335 million. First, we have Highway 170, which again, as Senator Davis had previously mentioned, we've got some traffic snarls, obviously, out on 170. So this is to look at capacity and safety improvements, basically from 278 to 462. Highway 46 improvements, again, that project means a little bit more to Bluffton, but again, capacity and safety improvements on that corridor, but also being cognizant of making sure that we maintain or preserve that scenic byway designation on that particular route. The Bluffton Regional Roadway Network, so a number of projects in the LATS Long Range Transportation Plan. So again, just the ability for them to facilitate some of those projects. So now we get to the ones that are more specific to the town of Hilton Head. We've got the municipal projects. So $40 million that is being proposed for road resurfacing, intersection improvements, pathways as requested by the town of Hilton Head. So again, there's, as far as road resurfacing, even in the way of dirt road paving, we're actually paving one of Hilton Head's dirt roads this week on Right Place. So just shows what some of those tax dollars could potentially be used for. And then again, the bigger project, the Highway 278 project enhancements, again, between what has already been done and what is being proposed, just trying to, again, come together and figure out what that correct balance is so that we're meeting the needs of not only the town of Hilton Head, Beaufort County, but also the traveling public and the citizens of the community. So $40 million again for that one. US 21 and Business 21 / SC 281. So again, these projects are really around Boundary Street, Rebo Road, downtown Beaufort. So some improvements that we have there, $75 million for that. And then the ongoing Ladies Island corridor improvements, proposed $40 million for that. So this is the second piece of the pie, and this is really the transportation improvement program. So what these are different programs or different pots of funding that can be utilized for different needs in the community as things arise. So there's things that we don't know of today as far as immediate safety concerns, pedestrian needs, that sort of thing, that we don't know today. This gives us the flexibility to be able to fund those projects basically on an on-call basis to be able to take care of those needs. Again, as we talk about a 10-year program, we're not going to know everything from day one. So that again is $365 million. $25 million of that is going to mass transit to again address some of the congestion concerns that we have in the community. It will look at both transit as well as ferry accommodations. $50,000 for safety improvements across the community. So anything in the way of pedestrian safety, turn lane improvements, minor intersection improvements, that's what would be included there. Resiliency. So again, as we deal with flooding, sea level rise, that sort of thing, this gives us a pot of funds to be able to address those needs throughout the community. And then dirt road paving, I think I mentioned that one just a minute ago. This is a primary need, especially in St. Helena, as well as there are still a few dirt roads here in the town of Hilton Head. Continuing on the transportation programs, resurfacing, we have $60 million for that. And again, that is to bring up the pavement condition of all roads basically within the county, whether they be county roads, state roads, municipal roads. $50,000 for pathways, again, looking at the needs of all users. in the system. Again, creating those pathways, those safe paths for kids to get to school, the safe paths for families to be able to walk in neighborhoods. Transportation technologies and access roads. Again, I think this goes along with the sense of not being able to necessarily build our way out of everything. There are additional technologies out there, though, and additional things that we can look at as far as connecting additional roadways, access roads, as well as implementing some intelligent transportation technology and that sort of thing into the system countywide. So $50 million for that. And again, to tie into what Senator Davis had just talked about with the Greenbelt. So we do have a pot of funding in here to do just that. So we understand the need, even as transportation professionals, to preserve land, and we can't necessarily build our way out of things. So again, looking at those key areas, working with our rural and critical lands to identify where those locations could be, but $60 million for that particular pot. So the implementation recommendations that came from the TAC committee was, and again, this is A, but the subsequent slides will show what, A is pretty long here. Advisory committee, so basically similar to what was formed with the TAC committee, to actually have a community-wide task force or committee that meets, talks through the projects, asked for make a call for projects on an annual basis, again, in the sense that we are being completely transparent with how the funds are being spent, how the projects are proceeding, and that sort of thing. So then we look at programs. So this is basically looking at each one of these different buckets of funding. The committee, along with county and any recommendations we would have from town staff as well, come up with criteria to grade each one of these different buckets. So again, the idea is we already have a set of projects ready to go in the hopper, whether this happens now or it happens at some point in the future or sales tax is continued, whatever funding may look like, we have projects ready to go. So B on that is issue bonds. So again, get those big projects out there and on the street and get them constructed just as quickly as we possibly can. Green belts, again, talking through that and utilizing rural and critical lands to set priorities on where those lands should be purchased. And then again, the mass transit piece, which is really just looking at alternative transportation to take those cars off the road. So the path forward, as what was previously mentioned, a resolution was adopted on the recommendations of the TAC committee. It takes 3 readings as well as a public meeting. The first reading was held on May 23rd. Is moved on to the second reading. There were a couple of county council members that were absent that day, so moved along to a second presentation that's going to occur this upcoming Monday. And the final with the public hearing would then be on June 27th if the county council so chooses to move forward. So really the timeline that we have is we have to have the final ordinance sent to the state by August 15th for approval and inclusion in the November ballot. So again, that's really the timeliness of moving forward with basically all the work that has been done by the TAC committee as well as our partners. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Glenn?
For someone who's been here only 6 weeks, you've hit the track running.
Oh, well, thank you.
You understand a lot of our problems here, and you have gotten some control on those issues. No decision's been made by the county in terms of putting it on the ballot yet.
Correct.
And it's a controversial subject, and so they're going to have to make a difficult decision when it gets to that. But assuming that the referendum is put on the ballot and then the tax is approved by the citizens, is it contemplated that there would be a lot of bonding against those funds so that the projects could start moving forward quickly? Or is the plan to do it over a period of time? And if so, how much time?
Yeah, the big projects, we are definitely wanting to bond. again, to try to get those, again, I think in the TAC committee meeting, there was and I'm gonna steal the phrase, we're not behind the 8 ball, we're under the 8 ball. So again, there's been so much growth, there's been so much influx that's come into the community that, again, we want to make sure that we get those big projects out there so that we have that immediate benefit to the community.
You have a real opportunity to work with Senator Davis and the program that he's gotten through the state legislature. And I think it would be vital that the county and the state work together on that and come up with a way to split that penny so that it doesn't seem such an impact to the citizens. So I'll look forward to your reports on that. Thank you for an excellent report.
Thank you.
Tammy?
Thank you, and welcome.
Thank you.
I think the committee did a great job. I appreciate and respect all of the time they spent putting this together. A penny tax in this area is not something that I'm in favor of, and so for many reasons. So I don't really have much more to say about that, but anyone's interested to know there's other reasons, I'm happy to talk later. Thank you.
Bill?
Thank you. A very comprehensive report. It's clear that this sales tax can generate 700 million. And the question then that would follow is what could be the range of economic impact on the community on an appreciable basis going forward? Because if you do that math, you can start creating stronger logic to sell this.
Yes, and there are multiple opportunities moving forward with the transportation infrastructure bill. There's additional federal funding that's going to become available, and we're currently researching that right now to be prepared to again leverage funding.
Thank you.
David?
Thank you.
Thank you, and very good job. Appreciate that. I instinctively react to what the community, what the county is going to look like when that $700 million has been spent. And in some ways, I shudder. So how do you mitigate that? Has there been any conversation on the part of county council that we need to have a different attitude towards upzoning or to restricting zoning in some ways that might change the calculus of need for transportation? Transportation and land use / zoning are connected, and oftentimes we spend money, but we don't change our attitude towards how we use land.
Yeah, and I think that there's ways that we can address that, and some of the ways we have proposed right now, we would really like to have basically a community-wide traffic impact analysis that basically each one of the agencies, municipalities, county would use one of the same traffic engineering groups to be able to look and assess what those impacts are. I mean, I think between that and just long-range planning is really where we go. That coupled with the fact that, again, trying to preserve these areas so that we don't have dense development in these untouched areas, I think is key to that as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that answer. What I really am driving home, though, is that it boils down to political decisions that are made almost on a monthly basis, whether or not we have a serious problem that this isn't even going to solve. Thank you.
Understood.
Alex?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Claus, you said you were a 6-week or 10-week baby?
6 weeks.
6 weeks, okay.
Yes, sir.
So that means that you are still impressionable, right?
Very.
And I'm sure that county council is much like us, where we rely on staff heavily.
Right.
Because we can openly admit that y'all are a lot smarter than we are, okay? I'm gonna pick up on where Councilman Ames was going. As we age and start to have problems with our arteries, you can go in, you can get them unclogged, you can put a stent in, or you can change your diet. I think that's what we're talking about here. So for me, in order to support any type of referendum, there has to be a dramatic shift to changing our diet. You know, we cannot continue to increase capacity and have this open attitude that we can take whomever, whenever, wherever. That's just not going to work for us here in the Low Country, particularly Hilton Head. I would also mention that one of the guiding principles that we ignored throughout the 278 corridor session was understanding alternate transportation methods, okay? Some of us have cars now that when you get too close to the line, it starts to vibrate under your leg. That tells me that technology is taking us to another place. So the whole one person per car attitude will at some point go away. But we're not thinking in those realms at the moment, and we really should be. So the green space initiative, I think, is something that should be more of a top priority versus the pavement piece. They sent you. That's at least one message that I want to make sure that you hear loud and clear from us, okay?
Well, and I do think that it's a balance, because I completely agree on the green space piece, but I think we already have some issues out there right now that we're going to have to at least have some kind of way and mechanism to be able to address those. So I agree with you. I think that there's a balance there. And again, not only utilizing the green space, but also technology that we have in the way of transportation industry. So that's evolving as we speak as well.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I don't want to weigh in as a council member. I just appreciate you being here. I think we're all hearing a lot that, acquiring development rights, transferring development rights to really balance the issues are obvious. We see what the transportation issues are. Intersections, going to school are some big ones on our island. So I appreciate in your first 6 weeks, you hit the ground running. I've heard a lot of good things about you and obviously them to be true. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
If I might?
Yes, sir.
I think we also should express appreciation to Peter Christian, our representative on this committee, who worked tirelessly in support of this, kept us posted with what was going on, and did an outstanding job.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Just one question for me is, what is the county council looking for from the town council? Are they looking for some endorsement? What are they looking for? Or just as an educational session to us?
Yeah, I mean,
expecting nothing back.
I feel like at this point, this is really just education. There is the timing on this is if we were looking for necessarily a recommendation moving forward, I think that would definitely be welcome. But I also understand that there's questions that are out there, and we're only about 6 days or so away from them meeting and probably ultimately deciding the fate of this referendum. So, again, I think that we would, I believe that the TAC committee would appreciate support, but I also understand that under the circumstances that, there's not a whole lot of time, and there's some other things going on in the world today that may impact that.
That's it. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
That's the end of your report, Mr. Orlando?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Public comment on
No.
that discussion?
No, sir.
Okay.
Reports by committees?
Mayor, I have a general report, if I
Yeah,
may.
I'm gonna
Thank
get
you.
general reports.
Dr. Emery Campbell recently received an honorary Doctors of Humanities degree from the University of the South. The honorary degree recognized his contributions to the preservation of the Gullah Geechee heritage. It is his third honorary degree. We can be very proud of Dr. Campbell for his many good works, and he is a tribute to this island. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, I just have one
Yes, ma'am.
comment. So it just seems to all fit together and was on my intended comments. But I just want to ask our council and town manager and staff to begin to set as a priority how we look at the development on Hilton Head. The land acquisition piece of it is obviously development rights. It's obviously an important part of that discussion, but also how our LMO sets up the standards and the requirements for code and approval. I think that as we're moving forward, we need to have in place what is a better standard of development for the island than we currently have, and we see that result all around us on the island. It speaks to the overbuilding, overdevelopment, and the, so both the quality and the quantity. So I just wanted to make that a formal request that we set that as a priority today.
Noted. Mr. Glenn, Low Country Area Transportation Study?
First, if I might, a general report, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Several months ago, the town was approached by a group of citizens who were very concerned about Islanders Beach Park. The town has responded. They've improved the situation at Islanders Beach Park. There is an outstanding overlook there, which is designed for handicapped viewing of and enjoyment of the beach, which is wonderful. And it's really feels good when the town is challenged by a group of citizens who are concerned about an issue, when they come back and they say, thank you for a job well done. So thank you for a job well done.
Any other general reports? Mr. Glenn?
So the LATS did not meet since our last meeting, so I have no report.
Low Country?
I don't have a report today, thank you.
Tom's not here. Airport?
I do have one.
Yes, sir.
The terminal bids are due June 3rd. The apron project is complete. The airport ambassadors program is underway. That's staffed on the weekends with local and airport board volunteers. Its mission is basically greeting, guiding, and answering questions of the many people who come through the terminal. And I'd also like to report that the summer schedule is less intense this year due to the airline's pilot crew shortages, so the terminal is not as crowded as it was last year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bill, Public Safety?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The committee has been meeting and will be coming before Town Council at our next session with recommendations for the BZA and for the Parks Commission, as well as reappointments for various other commissions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ames, Public Planning?
Public Planning Committee will meet next Wednesday, June 15th. E-bikes are on the agenda.
Okay. Appearance by citizens, Krista?
Yes, sir. First on our appearance by citizens, sorry, I wasn't prepared, is Bob Elliott, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Bob Elliott, and I am the founder of the South Carolina Nurse Retention Scholarship Program. And I'm here today because I wanted to thank you all face-to-face for having confidence in our program and for providing some initial funding so that we can all improve health care for Hilton Head citizens. The nurse shortage is just one of the many staffing shortage issues that the island faces. I realize that our program is unique in addressing workforce staffing issues, specifically with regards to the nurses. Unlike other programs that are out there, tuition reimbursement, signing bonuses, and so forth, that encourage and incentivize workers to actually be employed on the island, we only make payments in return for service. So a nurse must continue to be employed on the island in order to receive the scholarship money. So we supplement their income, if you will, to help them overcome some of the obstacles or barriers associated with working on the island. There are over 160 unfilled RN jobs on the island as of this morning. And they're in hospitals, they're in home care, they're in rehab centers. Each nurse that we're able to attract and retain on our program now will care for 8,000 to 10,000 patients per year. That's every nurse. Studies show that that increasing the staffing levels in the hospitals and healthcare providers improves the quality of care and patient outcome. And obviously, a robust healthcare system is critical to support economic development in our local businesses. The funds that you have provided to the scholarship program will only be used to retain nurses on the island. We expect to attract and retain up to 10 nurses that might not have otherwise chosen Hilton Head for employment, and over 20 to 25 in that range of nurses across Beaufort County with the funding that I've been able to obtain. There are 95 nurses that just graduated from USCB and TCL. That's our target group. We've communicated with them. They're aware of our program. They're making their employment decisions as we speak. And our fundraising efforts will cease on August 1, and we'll begin the selection process. One final note, on a personal note, I just want to tell you how much your support has meant to me personally and to our committee. It has reinforced that we're on the right track, that we've identified a need that resonates within the community and can obtain financial support. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, could I just indulge me for one moment? You just sparked some thoughts, so I'm trying to make this relative. Not a question, I just want to make a comment. You're good, thank you, Mr. Elliott. I attended a job fair a few weeks ago over at ACE. And we all know that ACE has a variety of programs there, but one of them is a nursing program. And it was so exciting and promising to see over a dozen young ladies in their scrubs so proud to be in that program. And the one thing that was going through my mind was, once they graduate from high school, once they go on to USCB, will they feel welcome here on Hilton Head? Okay? And I think that's our job, to make sure that they feel warm and welcome with staying here on Hilton Head. So the retention program is just one piece of the puzzle. All right? Thank you.
Thank you. Mister?
Yes, sir. Mr. Eric Somerville? Mr. Somerville?
Hello, gentlemen, and Lady Tamara. Good to see you all again. John, I got here a little bit late, sat down, it got uncomfortable. I forgot how fast you run a meeting. I thought I might have missed it.
Hurry up.
I'm watching the clock. Any event, I'm here to talk a little bit about the bridge. And I'm happy to send a full white paper on some of the comments I make if you're interested to know some more items. So I got a little bit of an outline, and I think you each have a folder with the page one in it. Page one? Yep, okay. $1 million for simulated, for traffic simulation. That seems awfully high to me. I was wondering if there was a competitive bid. And I'm not going to cover things in a lot of detail because the last one will be much more informative. Item number two, $2.74 million visitors travel here each year. If you do a little bit of math, just to get on and off the island, that's 15,000 visits over the bridge, back and forth. If they care to visit Bluffton,
another 15,000 visits back and forth. Page 3, SC DOT actually made a study over the bridge, and they said we get about just hovering under 50,000 cars traveling back and forth each time. I recommend that we also put toll booths over the bridge, just as we paid for the traffic, the bridge for Cross Island. We ought to pay for the bridge, we're going to pay something, let's collect some money. And I don't mean toll booths, I mean a toll watcher from the top. Down to the hottest point I think I bring, if I did my math right, we get all the traffic we get already. It's already coming in, it just gets here a little bit slower. One of the biggest concerns I have is if we speed up the traffic and we make it, I mean, SDDOT, every time I ask, they say, oh, we're making it go 5 minutes faster, 10 minutes faster. We're really doing a great job. Problem is, one lane of 15 miles of traffic in our little circle here, HHI Route 278 circle, is only 15 miles long. If you measure that out from the museum, Honeyhorn, you go out to about the Oakity L House. That's 15 miles of traffic. Within that traffic would be the space at 30 foot per car and spacing between cars, 2,640 cars. That's one lane. Going 30 miles an hour, if it can manage to go at that speed, which the bridge will try to do, that fills one full lane on our island. 2 lanes fill 2 lanes on our island full. 3 lanes would exceed what our island could even hold. So bottom line is you have to park them as fast as you get them here, or you're going to have a big traffic jam on Hilton Head that they can't get out of their own way. Good to see you again.
Thank you very much. Feel better.
Mark, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Krista?
Mr. Smith, Mr. Gray Smith, Mr. Smith?
Good afternoon. I'm addressing the council on behalf of the 8,226 Hilton Head residents and concerned individuals who have through today signed the petition requesting that an independent traffic engineering consulting group be hired by the town of Hilton Head to perform a truly independent analysis of our situation and provide their best recommendation as to how to best solve our peak traffic flow issues. I simply want to list as a reminder what we, the residents, would ask the town council members who are elected by us to accomplish going forward. At this point, our list consists of 4 steps. Number 1, the creation of a specific request for proposal that delineates the scope of the project to be sent to 5 or more of the premier traffic engineering firms nationwide, asking them to bid on the Hilton Head Traffic Engineering Consulting contract for an independent review of the situation and provide specific recommendations as to the best solution to our peak traffic flow problems. Number 2, the inclusion in this RFP of a specific and detailed statement of work which communicates accurately to each bidder exactly the performance expectations we have of the contract winner. I have here to place into the record a draft statement of work that has been created by our local technical working group, which we believe will communicate exactly what we are looking for the winning consultant to accomplish. Number 3, we ask that the town of Hilton Head, working in conjunction with the town of Bluffton, Beaufort County, and the SCDOT, immediately select a provider of adaptive, AI and satellite-driven, state-of-the-art traffic signal systems and implement the technology starting at the Buckwalter traffic signal and extending all the way to Coligny Circle. Number 4, we believe it's imperative that a technical working group comprised of Hilton Head residents be established and participate in all phases of the 278 corridor project tasks going forward. The members of this group are also willing to provide assistance to town government employees because we are well aware that the multiple phases of the work entailed to accomplish even just the 3 steps described above represent a gargantuan task. We, the residents of Hilton Head Island, are looking forward to working with you on town government. We ask that the management of the project remain centralized here with the government of Hilton Head rather than the county. Finally, on behalf of these 8,200-plus town residents, I would like to convey our heartfelt thanks to Senator Tom Davis for understanding the concerns of the Hilton Head citizenry and for being such a wonderful supporter and champion of what we perceive to be the best interests of the future of the island. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Krista?
Yes, lastly is Mr. Hoagland, Skip Hoagland.
If you let everybody, some people run over, everybody gets to run over, okay?
I got you, Skip. Don't push me.
Please don't interrupt me. It's my time.
Don't push it.
Don't interrupt me.
Just go ahead. I can do whatever I want.
I said,
Go ahead.
well, I can do whatever, I can say whatever I want as well.
ahead, Skip.
I'm just saying, do not start the clock, please. Don't start, please put the clock back. I just asked, he interrupted me, he did not let me finish. Please start the clock back. Please rewind the clock.
Krista, leave the clock as it
I was
is.
interrupted the minute I stood
Leave
up
it the way
here.
it is,
Please
Krista.
reset the clock.
Krista, we'll make time at the end. Leave it the way it is.
Thank you.
Please reset the clock.
Mr. Hoagland, you can talk or not talk.
I'm gonna go over
Reset the
then.
clock. It's only, what, 10 seconds?
Come on.
That's ridiculous. You guys are ridiculous.
Okay, all right, I'm just gonna go over, just like everybody else does. Skip Hoagland, SouthCarolinaWatchdog.com. Congratulations, council. Once again, you unanimously approved more tax funds to Bill Miles and the chamber to continue to rob our community blind. How's it possible when Miles told all of you that his use of tax money was his secret sauce and none of your business? Why is council continuing to subsidize this unlawful behavior? Yes, a lawsuit is forthcoming. You will all be held liable for knowingly issuing millions to a nonprofit organization you knew was illegal. I look forward to your depositions. Only 3 of you commented on why chamber funding should be approved in total disregard for the law. That was Ames, Brown, and Lennox. It was so obvious, planned, and rehearsed. This council was controlled like puppets by the town lawyers, and you just rubber stamp everything. Alex, you voted yes. Why would you do this with no accounting, no FOIA, and proven illegal tax use? I understand Mitchellville's funding is important to the native Gullah Island community, who I have supported for 47 years. However, Ahmad Ward, who runs this project, is corrupted and sits on the chamber board handpicked by Bill Miles. And also on this Mitchellville board is grifter Carlton Dallas, simultaneously head of the secret Greater Island Council, who took crook Glenn Stanford's place. Then at the town's request, Dallas submitted a plan to help Bill Miles and the town avoid my FOIA compliance that the Supreme Court ruled that this town must provide. Alex, you said you agree with everything David Ames said on video. Ames lied. There are no fraudulent chamber metrics. Alex, was only law and accounting. The most sickening was smooth-talking David Ames' lengthy, heartfelt, syrupy slop speech, pre-drafted and schemed to prey on the audience emotions versus offering facts and law. Ames purposely avoided legitimate criticism and allegations of fraud and money laundering by Miles. It was obvious his intent was to manipulate the press and community with a speech he knew was bogus. Ames is all hat and no cattle, and predictably, shyster Tom Lennox slobbered over ATAX chairman lawyer Jim Fluker, yet another appointed crook and lackey for town council and Bill Miles. My lawyers have the evidence that Lennox and Ames led the fraudulent drafting of the chamber DMO contract. They both shoulder responsibility and liability for this fraud. And the town lawyer, Coltrane, and Bluffton lawyer, Terry Finger, drafted this illegal chamber contract to allow ongoing theft of tax money with zero accounting provisions. Yes, we all got the middle finger from Terry Finger. This is the largest nonprofit chamber tax scam in South Carolina history, and it must end. So I ask again for compliance with my ATAX FOIA. Alex, Tamara, are you going to comply to the Supreme Court ruling that says you have to get the money from the chamber, the accounting on where all the money went, the millions, to hand to me and everybody in this room of what he did with our money? Are you going to do it? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? How about you? How about you, Mr. Can? You going to comply? You people cannot be any more crooked and corrupted, and you got to be removed from this council.
Okay, comedy's over. Let's go. Move on to the consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda. If there are no changes to any of those two items, we will just take a vote and move on.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any question by anybody? All in favor, please raise the right hand. Done. Okay, new business. In 2019, when we appointed the 278 Gateway Corridor Committee, that was our first move into the corridor, the bridge, the Stoney community, and what brings us to today. Without the work of this committee and the members of this committee, we would have been years behind. It is now time to dissolve the committee and move all the responsibility and work to the town council, who will work with the county council in completing this project. David, I can't thank you and your team enough. You guys have done an outstanding job. Took a lot of heat in the beginning for along the way, but I appreciate all the work you've done. And I'm glad you're all here today. We truly appreciate it. At the end of the meeting, Krista has a token of our appreciation over there in the corner, which will be given out to all the members of your committee. Would you like to say a couple words, David?
If I may.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. This is not a speech, I'm not, just notes there.
It's okay, David. Take all the time you need.
Well, first of all, thank you. When I, about a month into the process, I got a letter. And it has a psalm on the front of it from the Bible. In the letter, it says, "Dear Mr. Johnson, thank you so very much for your willingness to listen and to consider the Stewart family's concerns as they relate to the 278 Thruway. We appreciate all the work that you," and by this they mean the committee, "that you have done and will do on our behalf. May God continue to bless you and your family. Sincerely, Belinda Stewart Young." I didn't know Mrs. Young was obviously a Stewart and came with her cousins to the most meetings. But to me, that sort of gave me and the committee, I think, hope that, you know, there's a lot of contentiousness on this thing. There's a lot of different viewpoints. And yet, most of the people have believed in the process. And I feel like the process has been a good one. So I want to thank you all for your confidence in setting up the committee. It was an honor to serve. I want to thank the committee who worked so hard and the staff who worked harder. But I also want to thank the public who came. And this is the reason I read the letter, is because there are a lot of different sides, and I don't envy your position. But I think that with the inputs from all the sides that have brought, and we've had at least one independent engineer that has complied on this. And it looks like we're going to get another. And that came from people who were, for many of them, who felt like we weren't doing enough. And I feel like that the project is a better project because the process has been followed through. And I just want to thank the public for weighing in, and I want to thank you all for your confidence in us.
Great
Thank
job.
you. Any questions for David before we close
I have a
out?
public comment as well on this agenda item.
Just on this agenda item, nothing else.
Pardon me?
Just on this agenda item.
Citizens.
Just on your agenda item, yes or no? You can speak now, Mr. Hogan.
Yes, what?
You can speak now. Okay, any discussion by members of the council? Nothing?
I just wanted to also extend my personal thank you to the entire group. I sat in as someone in the audience watching and listening carefully to the discussions, and they were thoughtful and considerate of the process, the goals, the principles that were developed, and I know you put your heart and souls in it. Thank you.
I need a motion for the dissolution of the council, of the committee.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion by the council? All in favor, please raise their right hand. Thank you very much, and God bless us all. Mr. Orlando, do we need an executive session, sir?
Yes, sir. 3 items as referenced on the agenda. 1, personnel matters regarding creation and appointments to boards and commissions regarding Island Rec Association Board, North Point Public-Private Partnership, Housing Advisory Committee, as well as legal advice concerning pending claim on attorney-client privilege as it relates to Circle Center, and one last one as it pertains to issues regarding sale or purchase of property in the Newport Drive area.
Need a
Mr.
motion?
Mayor, I move we go into executive session for the reasons set forth.
All in favor, please raise the right hand. We will now go into executive session.
You have missed
We're back in session with 2 items before we go into the executive session. I'd like comment on the public budget, and I apologize for any misunderstanding we had before. Is there any comment on the budget?
Yes.
Mr. Hoagland?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Much appreciated, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay. Skip Hoagland, South Carolina, scwatchdog.com. The adoption of the town of Hilton Head cannot be approved, nor should have the fraudulent town audit been approved by Green Finney Farm until our corrupted, crooked town officials undergo a forensic audit. They have all been caught at illegal criminal acts already, including fraud, ethics violations, and illegal criminal use of tax funds that include Crook's town manager, Mark Orlando, insider from Bluffton, lawyer Josh Gruber, insider from Beaufort, and lawyer Curtis Coltrane, inside lawyer who drafted a fraudulent contract with lawyer Terry Finger to fund millions to the Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber with no accounting required. Yes, we all got the middle finger. Lastly, Controller CPA John Troyer, once forensically audited, will reveal crimes such as embezzlement, payoffs, laundering, facilitating illegal funding with other insiders. Steve Riley, the past 30-year town manager, and Mark Orlando, once this forensic audit is complete, I predict will be arrested and prosecuted based on the private investigations and information already provided by scwatchdog.com. Please note an interesting fact: never in the 300-year history of South Carolina or the entire United States, when forensic audits were forced, they escaped wrongdoing and waste being discovered, and much of the time prison was the result. I'm calling for forensic audits in Beaufort County since so much illegal criminal tax use has already been caught, and the overwhelming majority of our elected officials are factually dishonest, crooked, and corrupted. I'm calling for forensic audits on all those who receive and control millions of tax funds issued by South Carolina Treasury to clean the slate, identify crimes. In the future, make it mandatory for every Beaufort County and South Carolina institution to undergo forensic audits every 3 years. It's a known fact, higher cookie-cutter financial audits only show the numbers insiders want you to see, and by design to hide crimes. Only forensic audits identify crimes and waste. That's a fact. I'm currently calling for forensic audits on the following to begin: all town and county managers, their CPAs, and their lawyers who have been proven and caught with excessively billing us for legal fees. That's Coltrane and his predecessor, Alford. We got an article on that. We got all the information on his robbery. School district and the CPAs and their officials, all tax-funded nonprofits and chambers of commerce, CVBs and hired DMOs, and then all other institutions to follow. We have proof that they're illegally being issued money by all of you and illegally using money. Folks, tens of millions of hard-earned taxpayers' money for the last 40 years in Beaufort County has disappeared with zero oversight, transparency, and accountability or real audits.
Shut it off. You can go as low as he wants.
And just let me run over a little bit like you did other people. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate that respect. It's time to clean up. It's time to clean up, not the beautiful swamp where nice creatures live, but the cesspool of incestuous, baton passing, backslapping, backroom dealing, lying, stealing, incompetent corruption we have been dealing with in Beaufort County for 50 years since I've lived here. This has got to end. We look to you people to follow your and abide by your campaign promises. People are hungry for y'all to be honest and to make people abide by the laws. Why can't you do it? You'll be so proud of yourselves and everybody will be so proud of you. You'll get reelected, everybody will be happy. Why can't you be honest?
Are there any other comments from the public on the budget? Anyone else?
I'd just like to ask a question. Why are we not auditing everything and everyone? That's one of my questions.
Okay.
Can you answer
Excuse me,
that?
ma'am, could you please state your name and location for the record?
Yeah, Lynn Greeley. I live in Hilton Head. And then my other one is, oh no, I forget my other one. Forget what I was
Okay,
going to
come
say
back.
now. What's that?
You can come back.
Okay.
Okay, having heard public comment, let's have a vote of council again to make sure we all understand. All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Is that okay?
We're voting on
What?
consent agenda?
Yeah, back to the consent
I
agenda.
was
yeah.
going to ask what the motion was. You've got to
To
clarify the
approve,
motion.
the motion is to approve the consent agenda as presented. A motion,
So, I'll make that motion.
a second?
And I have a second, yes.
Okay, now, is there any question by members of the council? All in favor, please raise their right hand. Thank you very much. Now we're going to back to Mr. Hogan would like to make a comment on the 278 car, is that right, sir?
Yeah, and I'd like to run over, respectfully ask if I can run over a little bit on this, but before you start the clock, I talked to Krista. I respectfully ask, before you start my time, that I want to submit 5 studies. I'm trying to help y'all. I'm trying to help, like Tom Davis tried to help you, I'm trying to help you.
We appreciate that, sir.
Okay, I'm trying to help you. And I'll get her to make copies of this study that I've hired somebody to put together for me. And I'll pay the copying cost. I have no problem with that. So just let me read what's in this study because it's important. Everybody hears this and I want this on video. Jekyll Island Master Plan, South Carolina Master Plan Communities, short on workers, resort town has stopped marketing to tourists, unsustainable tourism carrying capacity, small town America facing big city problems, and why tourists ruin the very places that they visit with traffic and overcapacity and traffic. So I'm going to give this to Krista, and then we'll come back to the mic. You just get that to me whenever, okay? And I appreciate her service. I appreciate all your town employees. They're all good people. They're just trying to make a living and feed their families. We don't need a redevelopment strategy or a character visioning. We need an entire island master land plan we have never developed. Thank you, Mr. Harkins, for that. I have lived on Hilton Head for 47 years, and I'm sorry South Carolina DOT and the Corridor Committee and our entire island community has ended up in this unbearable traffic situation for all residents, tourists, business owners, and their workers. It has in fact caused many accidents, life-threatening situation for Windmill Harbor residents and native islanders living on 278. Charles Frazier's vision for low-density, high-end resort retirement community has been destroyed. And unfortunately, there are no real good solutions, nor have I ever heard of any. Fact is, we have been placed in this situation by our 30-year town manager, Steve Riley, and kicked the can down the road politicians, past mayors conflicted, who were builders, developers, lawyers, real estate agents, with horses in the race. We have never created a master land plan. Past town manager Steve Riley assembled this committee to take the heat off of him for his failed leadership and no master land plan. Gated communities have master land plans, but not Hardyville, Bluffton, Beaufort, and they're all heading the same way as Hilton Head. Land plan was needed 30 years ago when we had 2 pounds in a 5-pound bag, not waiting till we have 6 pounds in a 5-pound bag, and we're heading to 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. We can't fix where we are. Only if force officials like y'all to do a master land plan now to stop 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. How much more can we stand? Folks, we have one bridge, one road, all the way to I-95, and we have all been handed this overflowing bag caused by Steve Riley, Lisa Solka, and others. Unfortunately, there's no good fix. Firing Steve Riley is something I called for many years ago. Now we end up with another insider, and I'm sorry, Mark, crooked from Bluffton, Mark Orlando, and lawyer Gruber from Beaufort. It's just baton passing. We needed outside people, new blood. My idea to stop the insanity and the irresponsibility of elected officials is we force a master land plan now so we prevent the 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. We have simply allowed overdevelopment, too many timeshares, condos, tourists for the capacity of one road and one bridge to I-95. We can't fix this, it's a darn shame. But many of us have moved here 40 years ago. We did not sign up for Myrtle Beach or Charleston. Please let me finish, and I'd be greatly appreciated.
Go ahead.
No master land plan has caused a ripple effect all the way to I-95. It's harming workers, residents, tourists negatively. If this doesn't stop, businesses will keep closing. Workers will look for jobs off island, tourists will leave, and residents will move away. Lastly, this is a big thing for me because I'm a fisherman, I'm a hunter, I'm an outdoorsman. That's why I moved here 47 years ago. Lastly, the environmental damage caused by the overflowing 5-pound bag has caused severe pollution to our environment, like the May River, Broad Creek, our estuaries, where oysters and shrimping and all the things we did, Alex and his family going back. It took millions of years to create what we have here. We have destroyed it. I've witnessed it. I know it for a fact because I've lived it. We have destroyed it in 30 years, and there's no turning back, and it's a damn shame. It's like a slow-growing cancer. You know, I can go to the doctor today. He'll say, Skip, you got cancer on your hand. He said, it's not going to kill you today, but if you don't remove it, it's going to eventually kill you. This is where we've ended up. So I ask y'all, Bill, you're the one, when I heard you say that, I went, boom. Bill, you said it. We've never had a master land plan, and it's just criminal that we have not controlled what we're up against. I beg y'all, for everybody that lives here, your families, your friends, and for yourselves, y'all getting caught in traffic just like we do. You know, we just crapped in our backyard, and we need to try to do the best we can to clean it up. Thank you for that extra time. I appreciate it very much.
Well, good information, sir. Thank you. Okay, reports coming out of the executive session. How do you want to handle?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may, there are three motions for town council consideration. The first motion is to move to approve a resolution authorizing the creation of North Point Public-Private Partnership Housing Advisory Committee.
Second.
Discussion by members of the council. Discussion by members of the community. Council, call the roll. Krista?
Can I just clarify for
Yes,
the
you can.
record that this is creating the committee, not assigning membership to the committee?
Correct. We're creating the authority to create the structure. It is not yet populated with people.
Krista?
Yes, sir. Mr. Brown?
Support.
Mr. Harkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ames?
Yes.
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Stanford?
Yes.
Mayor McCann?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, the second resolution, I move to approve a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of an agreement with the Newport at Shelter Cove Owners Association Incorporated and the completion of the transaction described in the agreement.
I believe that's Newport, isn't it?
Newport, did I say
Newport,
Northport?
yeah.
I'm
It says
sorry.
North.
With the correction, Newport, I second.
Any discussion by members of the council? By members of the community? Krista, call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Support.
Mr. Harkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ames?
Yes.
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Stanford?
Yes.
Mayor McCann?
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
Thank you.
And the last final motion, move to approve the first reading of an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of 0.04 acres of real estate owned by the town of Hilton Head Island to the Newport at Shelter Cove Owners Association.
Second.
Discussion by members of the council? Members of the community? Krista, call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Support.
Mr. Ames?
Yes.
Mr. Harkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Stanford?
Yes.
Mayor McCann?
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
Let it go.
That's it. That concludes the motions, Mayor.
Okay, with that, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn. Before that,
So moved.
I apologize for any confusion tonight.
So moved.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you very much.